cost analysis of that is truly my best guess. There's no exact science there, so you're gonna see where I've taken a stab at possible, probable, and probably not. So I've taken a stab at who I think might entertain the option. It is purely my guess and nothing more than that.
Okay. We're back live on YouTube, so we've had our executive session. So now we're going to discuss the RFP for the Burgoyne Avenue roof replacement. And the big thing here is we're just trying to get it out to bid because we can't go any further until we know what the number is. I think we came to the fact that we think this might be the number one thing, but the price may determine that's not the case. But at this point in time, we believe it is. And at the January meeting, we will actually look at what is actually in the capital plan. Something different. Some things are different than what we've presented in the past that we found. There's actually money we can move around to contingency on things that haven't been done, things that have been closed that we can tie up, and that'll all come to you in January. So I need a motion to put that out to bid. It's probably one of the, that's probably our last. I guess we don't have a resolution for it, but.
Brian, is it an RFP or a bid? Are we looking for the engineering done and we're trying to get the actual contractor to do the work?
We're actually trying to, he's at the point where he's ready to go bid. It was all included in the RFP, the bid price and everything. He just needs the final okay for us to go forward because that's what everyone was.
The engineering RFP came up with what they thought the number would be, but you actually have to bid.
You still actually have to bid it to do the work.
So this is actually bid, not an RFP.
Yes.
Okay.
So, discussion. Dave O'Brien.
I'd like to make a motion. I have something to say after that.
Okay, is there a second? Cassie? Okay, discussion. Go ahead, Dave.
So I just wanted to let you know that on the government ops meeting on December 22nd, I've asked Matt to bring the plans for that building because we looked the other day, there are parts of that building we can't do anything with until we deal with the roof. So I'd like him to educate what the plans are, where we look at people going and different things like that, and also review his capital costs pertaining to that building.
And just a little caveat to that, due to the situation with COVID right now, some things are going to get moved there to get the spread of people apart from each other, not the spread of COVID. We're trying to prevent that, but there's going to be some groups there just to get them out of harm's way is what we're trying to do. I believe Meals on Wheels might even end up there. So it might be different than the plan we thought we were originally doing just because we're doing what we have to under the situation right at the moment. Any other discussion? Matt Hicks.
So we're 100% ready. The engineering is all done and we are completely ready to go out the bid. All that work is prepped, ready to go.
I believe that's where he's at. He had some parts left to do. He needs permission to get there, I guess. He wanted to make sure he doesn't want us, got to remember where this came from, was we had a meeting where we were complaining that we hadn't approved the bid process yet. So this is given the approval to go out to bid. Whether he's exactly there or not, I'm not certain at this very moment, but he's
Will he be
pretty
able
close.
to tell us at government ops
He will be able to
the
tell
entire
you.
timetable about when the bids would go out, when
Yes.
it's back, when we have the information?
Yes, and what he's trying to beat right now is the snow. He wants them to be able to come in and look in order to bid before it's covered with snow and you can't see what's going on. So it's a timetable issue also. So that's what we're voting on. Okay, anybody else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Any other business to come before us here?
You got the purchasing contract, or did that need to come here or no?
Oh, that's right. We're going to touch on IT stuff yet, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, I forgot that's not on the agenda, but I forgot we needed to talk about that, yes.
Yeah, so it was the purchasing, right?
Yeah, you have another contract to talk about too, right, for IT?
I believe so, but I don't have it on my agenda, so I lost for blank too. Go ahead.
You want to take Roger in that resolution first and then I'll go?
Okay, Roger.
So we we talked about entering into another purchasing collective that was somewhat similar to Sourcewell, to buy IT equipment from that was suggested by Terry. I went and looked at the Sourcewell resolution, and it had a sentence in there saying that they were approved by the Office of General Services to comply with bidding requirements. So I went to Sue Clayman, who's in purchasing, who's overseeing purchasing now, and I asked her if these guys were or not. And she checked, and she got a thing back from Office of General Services at the state saying, we don't do that. So I'm still trying to figure out how they did it for Sourcewell and not for us, not for these guys. So we're going to have to take a deep dive into that to make sure they do comply with all the requirements of bidding. I'm assuming that they do, and if we find that's the case, we will put the resolution in for you to participate, for the county to participate in this cooperative and buy off those contracts. They have, they have to be competitively bid, they have to be widely circulated, and this is a consortium of educational institutions in the Susquehanna Valley in Pennsylvania, of all places. So we have to make sure that their regulations will comply with New York regulations. So I don't see any reason why not if they do all those things, but it's not going to be apparently as easy as there's some list out there. I don't know how that sentence snuck into the Sourcewell one, if there wasn't such a thing, but it was 2 some odd years ago, so maybe there was and now there isn't, or something like that. But
So we have to relook at that again.
yeah, I'm looking into it. My understanding is it's not something, if it requires a longer look, it's not something that absolutely has to happen in December. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody.
Right, so my other question though is, do we have to look at Sourcewell too, to see if they actually do meet that? Because I don't want to be out there with them if they really don't have.
Probably I'll go back and look at Sourcewell too.
No, we gotta do that.
Yeah, I think that resolution came out of the admin office, originally when that one passed, so.
And that was used to be NYJP or whatever.
Yeah, it was a New York State operation.
Yeah.
So New York State operation would be dealt with New York State rules and regulations.
Maybe when they change their name, they're not.
I don't know, Pennsylvania, I don't know about Pennsylvania, so I'll have to look.
Okay. Very good. Al, were you ready?
Yep. So I want to have a conversation with you about some IT budgetary items. I'm going to go as fast as I can to not lose you, but slow as I can to not shortchange you on the information. So bear with me, please. If you remember, if you were part of the IT committee, you got a preview of this already. So there's a couple of things going on with Terry's budget. The first thing is that due to COVID, there was a bunch of things scheduled for this year that they did not get to do. So we would like you to consider a resolution next year and rolling over some of that money so that she can complete some of the stuff that was budgeted this year that she did not get to. So that's kind of I don't need official action from you, but I kind of need to know that you're at least open to the conversation of talking to Terry in January and February about reappropriating some of the money that she did not spend this year. So that's kind of the
Okay.
first part.
Yeah, I'll take it from there then, now I remember where we're at. So here was the deal. When we did the budget, originally a lot of her stuff was in the capital plan, and of course the money dried up from the capital plan, but the stuff she's doing doesn't really fit a capital plan arrangement, but it does fit a capital equipment reserve arrangement. And the reason it's important here is you have an opportunity to buy stuff that you need that's electronic, that's changing every minute. The last thing you want to do is have a department buying stuff at year's end because they have $100,000 left and, okay, let's get all this because we don't have it in next year's budget. You'd rather roll it over, so if that becomes outdated before they buy, they get something that's the next generation that actually fits what they're trying to do. So it's kind of a hybrid of where we were and where we're going. So that's kind of what we're putting on the radar. It makes sense after seeing how the budget set up and how the capital plan got changed. So I think this is a good segue into it, but yes, we can't really set that up until the new year.
Well,
Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, you jumped into the second part, Brian, on me, but we can go there now. So the first part of the conversation was just kind of getting a consensus that you would be willing to listen to Terry in January and February and talk about some of the stuff she didn't get to and be able to reappropriate that, kind of like we do with the public health grants. You kind of see Patty Hunt every February where you reappropriate her grant money. So if we had
Those
left,
things that can't be completed in 1 year.
so if we had left Terry's money out in the capital project, it would have automatically rolled forward for her. But because I stuck my nose in and said it didn't really qualify, it won't automatically roll for her. So I'm kind of asking you to be open to a conversation in January and February about rolling her money that would have automatically rolled in the capital project. The second piece of what I'm asking you to consider is, because she's not part of the capital plan and the capital project, where you set aside money for not only current but future needs, are you at this time willing to talk about and consider an equipment reserve and general fund, excuse me, that would act much the same way that the capital project would have worked for her, so that we can continue to set aside money for our IT needs without having to put them out in the capital project where they don't really fit a capital definition. So they're two different requests of you, but they're interrelated. And, you know, part of the rollover money is the $50,000 that she's going to get back from Board of Elections. Because if you pass a resolution on December 18th, that would give Terry basically a week to try to figure out how to use 50,000, and that seems a little bit unfair.
Okay. Any comments on any of that?
Yeah,
Basically just-
Brian, I do, Daryl.
Yeah, go ahead, Daryl.
All in on both concepts. The only follow-up question, I guess, Al, as we kind of ponder the future, I could see that account getting pretty well stocked if we kept rolling year to year. So we'd have to have kind of a conversation as to what's an appropriate cap on that, I guess, at some point. But you can quickly spend a lot of cash upgrading IT, without a doubt.
And if you want me to if you would like a resolution for the December board meeting, you can kind of give me parameters now on, you know, an annual contribution, maximum amount. You can tell me what your parameters are that you're comfortable with.
I think it's got to come from IT, my
Okay.
personal opinion. They got to give us a rough, you know, and we got to look at what they've spent year over year in investing.
continue.
And
We'll continue this in January then, sir?
thank you.
That makes sense. Does that go with you, Daryl?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Jay Skelly.
Yeah, I agree with both, especially having the line there. Ever since I've been on the board, we tend to chase with IT, you know, the budget will be set, and then all of a sudden, oh, geez, we got something we need to replace and there's no money there. Or, you know, the budget changes so much from year to year because all of a sudden we got to buy 100 new laptops because they're all coming due. And I've said right along that we need a line in there that helps buffer this so that it kind of levels out the purchases on this kind of equipment.
And that's what I'm hoping happens here, Jay.
Very good. Okay, is there any other business other than going to our special board meeting?
That covers it.
Okay. So I'll adjourn our meeting and let the chairman take over. I'll get out of his way and get my mask on. There you go, sir. Thank you, Brett.
Good afternoon. This, as you can see by the agenda, we only have a couple things on there, but it is an official meeting. So I would like to call to order the special board meeting of the Washington County Board of Supervisors to order for December 10th, 2020. Sue Clary, can I ask you to lead us in prayer, please?
Yes, Chairman. Thank you. Dear Father, let us pray together. Please be with all of our families, our individuals, our healthcare workers, teachers, and all the essential workers during this time of need. Help them walk through this with endurance, kindness, and care. Guide us in the months to come. During this holiday season, we want to thank you for all of our many blessings.
Amen.
Amen. All right.
Just
Supervisor Bryan, lead us in the pledge, please.
Please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In case of fire or other emergency, there's 3 exits to that room, there, and there. In case of emergency, please proceed to the nearest exit, go to the nearest stairway, go down the stairway, and clear the building as far away as possible. If you need special help getting there, please request it of someone. Also, please silence your cell phone for this meeting. Thank you.
We have the roll call, please.
Mr. Hanky?
Here.
Mrs. Fedler?
Here.
Mr. Ferguson?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Losaw?
Here.
Mr. Hicks?
Here.
Mr. Ward?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Half is there. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Hogan?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mrs. Clary? Mr. Griffith?
Here.
Mr. Rozell?
We have a quorum. The clerk will now read the notice of special meeting.
You are hereby directed to call a special meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Thursday, December 10th, 2020, to be held via teleconference immediately following the Finance Committee meeting scheduled for 10 a.m. for the following purpose. 1, amend budget for purchase of 4 plow trucks. 2, authorize the county treasurer to pay out of audit right-of-way acquisitions for Church Street Bridge project. 3, such other business as may properly come before it. Sincerely, Samuel J. Hall, Chairman.
Thank you, Deb. Supervisors, privilege of the floor. Do we have anyone that wants to be on privilege of the floor? Do we know? Hearing none, we move on to the introduction of resolutions.
We don't have to read any, do
We
we?
don't need to know any. Nope. Now we're going to the consideration.
Resolution number 278 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to amend 2020 county road machinery budget for purchase of trucks.
Do we have a motion?
Moving number 278.
Moved by Supervisor O'Brien. Do we have seconds?
Okay.
Supervisor Fedler, Griffith, Ward, Skelly, and Ferguson. Any other seconds? Any discussion? Supervisor Hanky was a second also. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 279 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to authorize purchase of temporary easements for the Church Street Bridge.
Moving resolution 279.
It's been moved by Supervisor Campbell. We have a second. Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Fedler. Any other seconds? Supervisor Ferguson, Supervisor Griffith. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And I believe that's it on the resolutions. Is that correct? All right. Supervisors' comments. Do we have any supervisors' comments? Supervisor Skelly.
Yes, I received a phone call this morning from a member of the BOCES board, and maybe Sam or Roger can inform us more, but I guess the BOCES is concerned that as COVID goes up, the schools will be required under executive decree to test 20% of their students. And for them to go out and hire private firms to do this is very expensive. So they were looking at the counties to work under their license. It wouldn't be any cost, and I guess they're looking at agreements so there'd be no liability or anything like that. But Saratoga and Warren County are in on it, but Washington County is not yet, and maybe you guys have more information.
We can, from a legal perspective, I'm gonna let Roger touch on that.
So, the first thing I want to do is comment that schools are not required to test anybody, but if they wish to remain open and they meet, and certain criteria are met, they may test people to choose to stay open. The legal concern is that the, license, there are two. One is, can the county, regardless of any indemnification, adequately supervise these operations in the various schools, because they're operating under our license? So at a minimum, we would have to train and supervise the operation. And can that be done with the number of personnel that we have on staff? The second thing is a legal concern of Patty Hunt, which I would say is valid on her part, but it is a personal concern to her that license is not under the name of Washington County. It is under the name of Patricia Hunt. So she has a duty pursuant to her license to ensure that those things, the personnel are adequately trained and adequately supervised. So yes, the schools, or some schools, have authorized or offered to give us indemnification agreements. We would certainly want that and require that, but those are the two issues. Now, is the first one can we train or supervise? That's a question you folks are going to have to decide as a board, because you're assuming risk. My job is to point out the risk. Your job is to decide how much risk you're willing to tolerate, how much penny you're willing to tolerate. The second issue is personal to Patty, and so she has to decide on her own whether she's willing to accept that risk, as does our medical director, who's also part of the licensing operation, Dr. Guerra, to be able to use that license. The third thing that you should know is that our license currently does not allow for COVID testing in any form, so that would have to be amended. Now, that is not, to my understanding, the largest of our issues, because it's fairly easy, so we're told to amend our license to include that test. And the tests we're talking about at this time are, I don't want to call them, they're very, very similar to pregnancy tests. They're not. You use a swab, you apply it to a card, and the card indicates basically a line for, I don't know if it's a line for positive and no line for negative or vice versa, but there's an indicator that says yes or no. That's what the actual test looks like. We do have some tests that I believe we're willing to funnel to whoever wants to do the testing. But the legal issues are issues for the Board of Supervisors to decide.
Now, where we currently are at that is we have been in touch with the Regional Control Office. They know the issue that we have and the problem that we have, and we are working with them to see if we can get something under the auspices of the Department of Health, where they can contract out, they being the State Department of Health, can contract out with some other agency to do this for us. It was our understanding that BOCES was also working along that line to see if they can come up with it. I don't believe, if my information is correct, that Dr. Guerra, our health official, isn't crazy about the idea of us and wants to sign off his license for us to go out there as well to do the testing when we don't have the adequate numbers of personnel to do it. Now, I know that Patty has put in, we authorized 2 additional positions for them over in public health, and they're having extreme difficulty filling those because they can't get nurses to apply for them. So, Tim, are you still on? I guess. Sure. Yeah. Yes. Tim, you want to further add to this, please? I know you've had some direct contact recently.
And we actually have reached out to the state, to both the governor's office. We've reached out to the Division of Homeland Security and the control room calls with Vice Chairman Hankey, and we've made the case that our public health is completely strapped with everything they're handling. All 8 nurses are all involved in public health investigations. All the ancillary people are involved in all of them too. So they really don't have anybody else to add to oversee the testing sites, whether we're talking about 10 or 11 at each of these schools. They still have that legal concern to make sure that the sites are administered appropriately, that everybody conducting the tests are trained, that they have the appropriate PPE and are disposing of medical waste appropriately, and able to upload all that information back into the clinical laboratory system that it has to go into at the end of the day. So I definitely think that that's Patty's concern, is that she just can't safely and adequately oversee that through my discussions with her. And so we've advocated to the state to either put us in touch with a partner. We've had those discussions with both Glens Falls Hospital and Hudson Headwaters, neither of which have the facilities to be able to allow the schools to operate under their LSL currently to do this. There are some other schools in other counties that have contracted out. So Saratoga and Warren completely are not using their public health only. Some of them have sought out contractors or third-party solutions that actually are coming in to administer or oversee the testing, if not conduct all of it. So that's really what we're trying to find. Was the state guidance said the local health department has to either let them do it or provide a partner. We're in a very difficult area where there's not a ton of partners that can provide that LSL right now. So we are in deep discussions with DOH Legal and DOH Wadsworth staff to help us find a partner potentially to put the schools in touch with, so we can at least bridge the gap just based off of Patty's concerns.
And that's where we are, Supervisor Skelly, despite time. Yeah, Supervisor Hogan.
So just out of curiosity, wouldn't doing this free up the county health department by providing some of the local nursing staffs in the school districts to be able to do this testing on their behalf?
Well, my understanding first is that we are not going to provide any actual boots on the ground swabbers, let's say for lack of a better term. We are going to provide the license, which then comes with the obligation to provide oversight, initial training and oversight of the operation. But I don't believe I've heard anybody ask us for actual nurses from our department to go and perform the test themselves.
Well, and that's why I was provided with a health department memo, and kind of what Tim said, it says very clearly we are required to do this as a local health department to allow schools to operate under our LSL. So I'll be curious to hear what kind of response they get from the legal department, because it says in the memo that I have in front of me that we don't have a choice in the matter.
Well, you're right, we don't, because if Patty decides that she's not going to do it, because it's her personal license, then there's no way we can do that. That's why we're trying to find someone else to do it at this point in time, Supervisor Hogan.
Yeah, and I would think we'd want to do this sooner rather than later, because I think the concern that they have is they're trying to stay out of the yellow zone. And I think the more testing and the more ability they have to test right now is going to keep these school districts and BOCES out of the yellow zones, which is what we want to accomplish. Because if they get into a yellow zone, it would seem like our county would get much more, they're going to get busier.
That's correct. We've been working on this every day. It's not something that's just been sitting here and not being accomplished or attempted to be accomplished.
Well, it's the first step I've heard, but would have been good to get an update on it.
Well, whenever you want an update, if you don't hear it, you can always pick up the phone and call, because one of us can give you the update. Obviously, you've known about it for a while. It's been eating at you. So you just pick up the phone and call, and the staff can give you the information you're looking for. So, okay, is there any other questions? Any other supervisors' comments?
Tim's got it.
Tim?
Chairman, do you want me to see if Patty can hop on?
Yes, please.
Had the can of worms closed, not gonna open it.
Mike, can of worms, can't wait for that.
Yeah, I'm right behind you.
I know, I didn't lock it.
Yes, so.
I apologize. I got kicked off. I live in the town of Salem, and I'm here 1 minute and gone the next. A couple of times. I apologize to everyone for doing that. I did get back on in the middle of the conversation and don't really understand. Is this referring to the Abbott's testing at Granville and Cambridge? Or is this something different? This is all school-based?
This is for the testing that's required by the state for the county health departments for all of the schools. It's not one particular school.
Was there talk about the possibility of testing being set up under Glens Falls Hospital at urgent care in Granville?
Yes, Tim had addressed that. He's reached out to both Glens Falls, who said he didn't have the capacity as we speak, and Hudson Headwater, who didn't have the capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, was she gonna be available as Patty, or she?
I did send it to her, but I don't think she has anything to add different than what we've said. We're waiting to hear back from the DOH legal folks. Just
Okay.
to see if there's any potential alternative.
Okay. And we were gonna be getting back in touch with their point of contact on her today anyway, so.
Correct.
We will. All right. We will send that out, Nate, as to what we get, when we get that correspondence back from them, then we will get that out to the supervisor so they can see where we stand at this point in time. However, I do not anticipate that's going to be any different than what it was when we talked to them twice on yesterday, so. Okay, is there anything else to come for the board? Other comments? I'll take a motion to adjourn. Cassie, seconds. We got Jimmy and Don. Very good, thank you. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.